Sweet, we are live. I'll just wait a couple minutes just so that everyone knows that we're on and we're live. And I'm also going to try to make sure I can see when people come on and answer their questions. Otherwise, we will get into it. Let's see here. Should show up in a sec here. Okay, perfect. Great.
Good to go?
Yeah, we're good to go. We are live. Awesome. Okay, everybody. As you are tuning on, and I know some of you will watch this later, I am super pumped to introduce you to one of our WiFly participants. I feel like some of them have been a bit of a mystery, and now you guys can actually meet them in person. So I'm super pumped to have Rhami here, and it's double exciting because he's the only other fellow Canadian. I'm not sure if you guys know that I am Canadian, not American. Everyone always assumes American. And Rhami is our Canadian participant. We were just talking about how cold it is here in Canada. But yeah, I'm super excited to introduce you guys to Rhami and share his journey. He has a really interesting journey. I'm just really excited to share it. So, Rhami, thank you for being here and, being open to share your journey with everyone. And if you guys have questions for Rhami as we go through this, put them in the comments and he will answer them.
Only if they're good ones.
Oh, only if they're good ones. Okay.
I'm just kidding.
So I'll give you a second, Rhami, just to introduce yourself and just basic yourself and where you're from type thing. And then we'll dive into your story.
Yeah, sure. So I was born and raised in Ottawa, Canada. I grew up there. I studied electrical engineering in university. I kind of transitioned a bit later on to something else, to web development specifically. I currently live in San Diego, where it's nice and sunny and always warm. And I will be coming back home for Christmas to Canada. So, so that's kind of my story, and I'll tell a bit more about it as we go.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, so let's start from the beginning. There's a few things I want to touch on that I think are interesting. I would just like you to kind of dive into what your normal life was like before you were introduced to this whole idea of working online. Sort of what your, I know you had a bit of a traditional background, but I also know that you also played semi-pro football, which is kind of interesting and sort of how that plays into this. And I'd also be interested, as you're explaining your background of sort of how things used to be, just touching on that in that way, touching on, what your family situation was like, your work situation, your life situation, sort of how this traditional life looked a while ago when you were stuck in that.
Sure. Should we go way back to the high school days, or?
I mean, as far back as anything that you think is relevant and that tells your story and is relevant to it.
Yeah, sure. So growing up, let's say in high school, for example, I was a good student. I always got good marks. I always studied hard and worked hard to get those good marks. And I also played sports. Sports was a big thing for me growing up. So I would say, I was pretty well-rounded. So after high school, I went to school for engineering. I was good at math and science. So for me, it was just logical. That was the path I should take. I studied that for 4 years. Then I worked in the field for a bit. And that's kind of when I realized, number one, I didn't like the engineering field. And then number two, I didn't like the 9-to-5 aspect of my job.
Yeah.
So this is one thing I realized later. It wasn't just the engineering that I didn't like. I didn't like the 9-to-5 thing. So I feel like no matter what job I would have had, 9-to-5 would never have meshed well with me. And it doesn't.
Yeah. And then, so you also made the transition to web development for the Canadian government, right?
Yeah. So I worked in engineering for a bit. I worked for IBM, among other places.
Hmm.
And then I just really, really didn't like it.
Yeah.
And so I stopped doing that and I transitioned into web development. I've been making websites since I was a kid.
Yeah.
That's just an interest or a hobby of mine. And so I went back to school online, just at night while I was still working for other companies. And I got my web design degree just to have that on my resume.
Yeah.
So after I got that, sorry, go ahead, Kate.
No, so when you went to school for engineering, were you like, yeah, I want to be an engineer. This is what I want to go to school for. Did you consider other options or did you just assume, well, now I'm done high school, now I'm going to go to university? What was your thought process around that?
Sure, that's a good question. So I was in Canada, and I'm sure in most other places, you have to decide in basically grade 11 or grade 12 which program you want to go into.
Yeah.
So for me, it was engineering or bust. It was just which kind of engineering I wanted to go into.
Okay.
There's four, five, six different kinds. So that was my only real choice. I never, I don't think when you're 17 years old, you even know what it entails to become an engineer or an accountant or, whatever field you might go into. I had no idea. I just thought it was cool. In Canada, we get a ring when we graduate. So I thought that was a big selling point for me, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And yeah, for me, there was no other option. I didn't even consider anything else. I thought I would get a cool job. I'd be making lots of money. I'd buy a cool car. I'd have a cool condo.
Mm.
I'd basically be Will Smith in from Hitch.
Yeah.
So that was my idea. I just didn't realize the actual, 8, 10 hours a day of work that you have to do. I
How
didn't realize.
how soon in that did you realize I can't do this? And what elements was it that you just worked you?
Um, so I think I started to realize my first co-op term. So after my second year of university, I had a co-op work term during the summer, which was a 9 to 5 job.
Okay.
And I really hated waking up every morning. And it was always a struggle. Even when I was 19 years old, it was a struggle for
You're
me to
like a
wake
night
up that
owl.
early.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a night person. So it was a struggle for me to wake up. And I think that was my very first work, and that's when I realized this is not what I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't see any other options back then because when you're a kid, you think you graduate, you get a 9 to 5 job. That's how it is.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I'm like, okay, it's too bad I have to suck it up. So I did suck it up for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah. So um, going back, yeah. So after I quit my job, my engineering job, I transitioned to web development.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, okay, I'll do this for 6 months to a year, um, and that was my plan. Do that, and then start a business.
Yeah. So just to pause for a sec, how long did it
Sure.
take you to get this web development degree or when you were working or certification?
So it was online. Basically, you can go at your own pace. I
Okay.
it was supposed to take. Um, I think it was supposed to take about 18 months.
Okay.
I did it in about 12.
Okay. So I
Okay.
think that's an interesting point just to also bring it back to everyone that's watching is it's similar because I had a similar transition where you were doing something with a specific skill set and then you changed that skill set and made a transition. So recognizing and taking the time to invest that year of developing that skill so you can move into web development. So it's also interesting that for people to know your timeline of it taking a year for you to change your skill set to I mean, I guess at the time you perhaps didn't realize it would lead you to a remote job, but yeah. Okay, cool. So you knew you always wanted to start a business, yeah?
Yeah, that was always in the back of my mind. Um, I just feel like, yeah, I never, I was good with dealing with authority, but I never liked rules.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I like to make my own rules, so I always knew that was kind of the path I would eventually end up in.
Mm-hmm.
I think in the back of my mind.
Okay, so then I guess two questions now is you went through this journey, you're doing the 9 to 5, you know it's not for you. What became that breaking point of all right, I need to do something different? And was it a hard breaking point, or was it really just a transition of small decisions that sort of led you there, or was it this big, this is it, like cutoff point? How did you approach it? And I guess at that time as well, did you approach it knowing you wanted to be a digital nomad, or did you just approach it knowing I just can't do this?
So let me think back. When I first got my web developer job, this was about 6 years ago. So like I said, I'm like, okay, I'll just do this for 6 months to a year. That was my mindset, and then
And
I'll
then
start.
6 years later, you're still doing it?
Exactly. And then 6 years, five and a half years later, I was still at that same job because I just got comfortable, and that scared the shit out of me. Um, I I would literally, it was literally living the same day over and over again. I would wake up the same time, take the same drive to work, take the same walk to my office,
Yeah.
do the same thing every day, and then come home and then do a few things, then go to bed and do it again. And just somehow 5 years passed, and I don't even know how. I
Yeah.
just got comfortable. You start climbing the ladder, you get these little rewards, um, and you justify it in your head. And I start to justify it. I'm like, yeah, it's comfortable. Like, I have a pension. I don't know if people know, but the Canadian government has a great pension system.
It's like what's the American equivalent? Like the 401,
Yeah,
four, is it 401?
401, 401k.
No, wait. I'm thinking of like the
No,
highways now, the 404.
yeah,
Okay. Anyways, it's
yeah,
similar to that. Yeah.
yeah, sure. Um, and yeah, so I was just justifying why I'm there, and it was it started to scare me. And I remember when I first started, I'm like, I'll never be one of those people that's
Yeah.
just working for retirement. So um, to be fully honest, it was 5 years in the making,
Yeah.
the
Of
breaking
just
point.
set it like, was that 5 years of gradually thinking of it and 5 years of on and off self awareness? Because it seemed like it was this self awareness that made the change happen. So was it just 5 years of a buildup of being more and more self aware of it?
So it was kind of like a fluctuation. At the beginning, I was super self-aware. I was like, okay, I'm not doing this. I'm not going to be one of those people. And then I kind of got comfortable and complacent. So for that middle few years, I I feel like I was almost happy with it.
Mm-hmm.
I was content with it, not happy, but content.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just like this. And then towards the end, I started my self-awareness level rose. And to be fully honest, the breaking point for me,
Mm-hmm.
I went through a breakup,
Okay.
and that's what really like pushed me off the edge. Like I was just on the edge for a few years, and then
Yeah.
that pushed me to make that change.
And did it push you in the sense of what was your mindset? Was your mindset, I just can't do this. I want to travel. I want to be my own boss. I want more flexibility. What was the main thing you were kind of after there?
Um, I wanted to make my own schedule. I wanted every day to be different.
Mhm.
I remember just walking into the office every day and being, I can't do this anymore. Literally, it's the same day every single day.
It's like this
And
robot, like what is those
yeah,
movies where they relive the same day
yeah,
over and over? It's like, this is
yeah.
not me. Yeah.
Groundhog Day.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Yeah, I felt like a robot basically, and
Yeah.
I wasn't being challenged. I wasn't growing as a person, and I really needed that. I remember having one conversation with one of my best friends back home. Her name
Mhm.
is Lisa. Um, I was at work and chatting with her on Facebook,
Mhm.
which,
Funny.
sorry,
It's okay. You're not
but
there anymore.
but we were just chatting, and I'm like, I don't know, like I feel so bored. I don't know what's wrong with me.
Mhm.
She's like, I honestly think your job is not challenging you enough. I think you need a better job. And this was, 3.5 years into my job, where I was at that comfort level.
Yeah.
That kind of kicked me back into gear a little bit.
So you finally reached this point and you had this breakup, and I think that's interesting. So I'd be curious to know, I guess, at that breaking point, what changes you started to make and how fast you made those changes. But I'd also be curious to know what role, because obviously being in a relationship was probably subconsciously impacting your decision whether to do this or not. So I'd be
Oh,
curious to know a bit about, was your girlfriend at the time in a location dependent position? Was she really into the like not travel, not go anywhere, happy with that lifestyle? And also in terms of, on the program we talked a lot about, we had a really diverse group and talking about how um, our different cultures and upbringing and ethnicity and all of those, how those played a role in just culture, and breaking away from the norm. And I know that you have a Lebanese and Syrian background, and I wonder if and how that played a role culturally in your decision. And obviously the relationship was impacting your decision subconsciously. Do you think there was anything culturally that was impacting, or no? And how did your, I guess, friends and family, what are their mindsets as you're trying to make this change?
sure. So I'll start with the family upbringing aspect of it. Like I said, I was born and raised in Ottawa.
Mm-hmm.
My parents, they each moved to Canada when they were in their teenage years,
Okay.
so they've been here a while.
Yeah.
Um, they, I'd say they're very open.
Yeah.
They're not conservative people,
Mm-hmm.
um, but they have strong Arabic values at the
Okay.
same time. So for Middle Eastern people, I think as for many different cultures, it's the prestigious careers are doctors, engineers, lawyers.
Mm-hmm.
Like for us, that's just how it is,
Yeah.
and it's just part of our culture, I think. Um, so they were always my parents are amazing. Or they always were, and they always supported me, and they always said, do whatever you want to do, we'll support you.
Mm-hmm.
They always said that. So I was very lucky,
Yeah.
and I know they were kind of disappointed when I told them I didn't want to be an engineer anymore.
Mm-hmm.
They never really told me they were, but I know they were,
Yeah.
and I don't blame them. I probably would feel the same.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I'm lucky they were always very open and supportive of me. I think for me, I was my biggest enemy. It wasn't any outside pressure.
Interesting.
It was, my problem was I was my biggest obstacle.
Okay.
And
Can you expand on that? Because I think this is a great point.
yeah, so the reason I stayed at my last job for 5+ years, it was me. I think I was scared to make that jump. I was scared to leave that steady salary behind,
Mm-hmm.
that pension, um, all those things that were comfortable. It's like they say, you're in golden handcuffs,
Mm-hmm.
right? So you're restrained, but they're comfortable.
Yeah.
So I was my own biggest enemy. I think I didn't want to make that jump because I didn't want to leave that comfort behind.
Yeah.
It's a big risk.
Was there an element of fear of the unknown in that as well, or like,
Yeah.
what how do you overcome being your own biggest enemy? What steps, what little things or big things, what did you do to get past your own mindset that was holding you back?
That's a good question. That's something I think that's a constant evolution, and I
Mm-hmm.
think we're all constantly working on that. For me, I've always believed in myself
Mm-hmm.
immensely, and I know whatever I set my mind to, I will do it. It's just I didn't know what to set my mind to at that point.
Okay. I
I
think,
know I,
sorry,
I
go ahead.
know I want sure. I know I wanted to have my own business. I just didn't know what it was. I didn't know what steps to take.
Yeah. I think it's interesting because it almost seems like when you say, I always could achieve whatever I put my mind to, something I experienced and I think it kind of relates is all these different small wins in our life. I want this, I'm going to go after it. I did it. So all these small wins, it for you and I gave us the confidence to believe in ourselves enough that we can achieve this next big feat. Mine started out very small. Oh, I'm going to try this. And then it happened. And then all of a sudden I kept trying these bigger and bigger ambitious type goals. And I'm like, holy shit, all these things are actually happening. Right. So I think it's an interesting thing too, because I think fear also part of it is like confidence and confidence in your ability to execute on something. And I think for a takeaway for people listening, doing those small little things to build your confidence, knowing that you're capable of these great things. Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else that you want to add to that in terms of your mindset and overcoming being your own worst enemy? So it's like those confidence building that you spoke about. Is there anything else as well?
You know what? So when I did quit my job, this
Mm-hmm.
was in August of this year. I decided literally, I decided mid-August,
Mm-hmm.
early to mid-August, I'm gonna quit my job.
Yeah,
I gave my 2 weeks notice, and then by the end of the month, I was gone. I
yeah,
booked a one-way ticket to Madrid. So it wasn't well thought out. I just knew something had to be done,
yeah,
and I heard there's no such thing as a right decision. I
yeah,
just knew what I was doing was the wrong thing,
yeah.
so I had to change it,
That's
and
a
I didn't.
great point. I
Right?
think everyone always looks for what's the right decision and tries to pull that. But I think
Yeah,
there's huge value in knowing what is the wrong decision
yeah,
and leaving yourself from that. Even if you have three decisions, like you could have gone to Madrid, you could have done A, B, C, X, Y, Z. And as long as you weren't doing what was wrong, you were on some sort of path. And from there,
exactly.
you could figure out and navigate. It's
Yeah,
a great point.
yeah. There's no perfect decision. No matter you always have unlimited options in life.
Mm-hmm.
You just have to pick one
Yep.
because not picking one is a decision in itself.
Yep.
And if I chose to stay in Ottawa, I that's the only thing I knew was the wrong decision.
Yep.
Yeah.
Amazing. And then I guess kind of tying in the relationship aspect. So you talked about your family and the role they that played, and it seemed like your family, for the most part, was supportive. Although they didn't completely get it, I feel like that's kind of like my family too. They're like, I don't know what you're doing, but I think you're at least, not being a bum and trying to do something. So we'll support you. Um, and then I've also been in the relationship thing too, where that becomes complicated. And is there anything else that you want to add to that, or more the fact that she was more of a stable person, and as soon as that was gone, it gave you the ability to try something else?
So we had only been dating for, it was less than a year, the
Mm-hmm.
total relationship. And she had a 9 to 5 job. She wasn't particularly happy in it.
Mm-hmm.
But he, I think it was going to happen either way.
Yeah.
It had to happen. It was 5 years of buildup. The breakup was just, I think it happened for a reason. It was that just jumping off point because I think I was 95% ready for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that last 5% push you needed that I think is the hardest to
Mm-hmm.
actually make that decision,
Yeah.
to quit your job or to move or whatever it may be. I think that last 5% push is the hardest thing to get.
Did you, if you don't mind me asking or sharing, did you like, was it a result of, did you break up with her so that you could do this, or did it just sort of happen and then it was just like, oh well, that just happened, so now I can pursue this, or did you like end that for being able
No,
to?
she broke up with me.
Okay, so
Yeah,
it was separate,
yeah,
not related.
yeah.
Okay. Okay, interesting. Um, okay. So is there anything else in terms of mindset? Because I do think that this is like a critical part for a lot of people, is that first step. And mindset, I find, is the biggest barrier for people. Is there anything else that you did to overcome being your own worst enemy, or to get clarity on, like why Madrid, like the timing of when you quit your job? Was it just, all right, now's the time and I'm going to do it and figure it out? Just more of like what was going on in your head, and what what was it that made you make the decisions you made?
So yeah, that's an interesting question. I think so. The reason I went to Madrid was because one of my cousins was going there for a week,
Mm-hmm.
and she has a childhood friend that lives there.
Yeah.
So she's like, "Yeah, come. Like, we can stay with her. It'll be fun." And I was at this point, I was looking for any excuse to get the heck out of there.
Yeah.
So I think it was just good timing.
Yeah.
And so they were going to Madrid, or my cousin was going to Madrid at the beginning of September,
Yeah.
and I just knew I couldn't be at my job anymore. It
Yeah.
was just building, 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 and I'm like, all right, that's it. I'm doing it. So I gave my 2 weeks notice, and um, yeah, just
It's
booked that
funny.
ticket.
I remember when we first spoke to you about joining WiFly, you're like, "Yeah, I've got this job at the Canadian government." And the next time we spoke to you, you're like, "Yeah, no, I quit my job." We're like,
Exactly.
"What? Holy
Yeah,
crap, okay."
yeah. It was that sudden.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So it just seemed like it was like the time. And it's funny because WiFi had started just after your trip. You came right from that trip to
yeah,
Bali to join us in WiFi. So it's interesting how things started to connect together. You made this decision and there's like this trip opportunity, and right after this is Bali. So I'd be curious, well, let's talk about that that lead up to, I guess, WiFi and that experience a bit, and then we can kind of go on a bit more of where you're at now. And you've accomplished a lot since WiFi, so I'm excited to share all of that with everybody. Um, yeah, I mean, why don't you just tell everybody? I mean, I feel like we always talk about WiFi in our own words, like Imran and I.
yeah.
So why don't you just share your experience of why you joined, what that meant to you, what that experience was like, what you learned, what was your main takeaway? Just, yeah, I'll let you do a free for all on that.
Sure. So I've been looking into these programs for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I actually got accepted into remote year, the one you were on, Kate,
Yeah.
and we could have met in another life, but we didn't, right?
Yeah.
And I didn't take that chance, and I always regretted it. And
Mm-hmm.
ever since then, this was what, two or
Was it
three years ago,
it was the first one you applied
the
to?
very first one.
Right.
Yeah,
That's just so
yeah,
weird.
yeah.
We would have been on the same one. Yeah.
You know. Um, so I've always been looking to these programs, just scary because those programs are geared towards people who already had remote jobs, right?
Mm-hmm.
And yours was the first one I saw where it was geared towards people looking to get a remote job or to start their own business remotely.
Yeah.
So I think that was actually a big reason why I had the courage to quit my job because I'm like, okay, I have this program, it's going to help me out, it's going to teach me how to do this.
Yeah.
Because it's, quite frankly, it's scary to do that. Number one, to be a remote or digital nomad, whatever you want to call it. That's scary in and of itself. And then number two, to start your own business.
Mm-hmm.
Those are two scary things. Put them together, it's doubly scary.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think your program definitely gave me a bit of confidence to be able to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and yeah, I think I think I've just been looking for a program like that, and it's
Yeah.
very helpful.
So what was that experience like for you coming to Bali? Um, I remember when you first got there, it was like the first time Imran and I had been at the airport for like 30 hours.
Yeah,
And with you, it was the first time to actually just sit down for a couple hours and just like have a beer and relax and chat, which was nice. It was the first break, I remember. Um, what maybe just explain to everyone what that experience was like. And I think something that's really special with our group is the community and how close you guys have become.
yeah,
And I think that that's amazing. And yeah, maybe just talk about, I mean, everyone has like a gist of what went down, but I guess in your words, what that 2 weeks was like, and the people in the community, and anything else that you want to share that people might find interesting to know.
sure. So um, like I said, so I quit my job end of August. I flew to Madrid in September. I went around Europe for a bit, and then I went straight to Bali to join WiFly on the program. So yeah, I remember getting there. You seemed so tired.
I literally hadn't
Yeah,
slept for like the longest
yeah,
time.
yeah. I knew it. I still remember our conversation. We just had that beer upstairs in the airport. Yeah, that was cool. Yeah, so the experience for me was definitely life changing. I think the connections and the people we met were the number one takeaway that I got from it. I still talk to almost everyone from the program,
Yeah.
whether not, maybe not every day, but once in a while, at least we check up on each other.
Yeah.
And yeah, so it was basically we would have, during the day we'd have various workshops. You guys would teach us things. We'd have guest speakers.
Hmm.
We'd go to different co-working spaces in Bali, just network.
Hmm.
I still have many contacts from Bali that I still reach out to and that
Yeah.
I'm in contact with if I ever go back there. So that's a huge advantage.
Yeah.
And yeah, just the stuff you guys taught us on starting a remote business, very useful. Just little tips, even.
Hmm.
It's maybe not grand things sometimes,
Yeah.
but it's just those little tips and the experience you have that's the most valuable. And then we had a lot of one-on-one sessions with you and Imran.
Yeah.
I found those very valuable just to give us personalized advice
Yeah.
on go.
I guess what I'm curious of is so many people always say to us that um, they're like, oh, create an online course, right? And I remember when I first started, one of the most impactful things was the fact that I was immersed in the lifestyle. Do
Yeah.
you, what are your thoughts on that, the immersion aspect and the actually connecting with people living this lifestyle, seeing it, living it? What was that like for you? And do you think that that was a critical part in you figuring all this lifestyle out or gaining the confidence, so to say?
Yeah, the immersion part is definitely key. I don't think it would be half as effective as an online course.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, the connections for me are the number one thing that I got out of it.
Yeah.
And yeah, just being in Bali with having that chance to network with people who you see every day. They're remote workers. You go to the co-working space, there's, hundreds of people there working, and they all are digital nomads.
Mm-hmm.
They all, either work remotely or they have their own business. Just
Yeah.
seeing it in action, it's it's just cool, and it's something you don't really get here in North America.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So yeah, so that was definitely a big part of the experience.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Why don't we go into sort of, I'd like to go into a bit of where you're at now, and then I'd like to dive into, I guess, some reflection points of your overall journey. So we'll wrap up in, where you're at now, what's to come. And then I have some questions for you in terms of, I guess, learning opportunities for everyone else and just things you learned along the way that you can share with everyone. But before we get to that, we need to finish your journey of where you're at now. So this is the exciting part. So maybe you can share with everyone, I guess, where like you left Bali at the end of September.
yeah.
What's been going on since then and what you've achieved? You've had a lot of achievements, so I'm excited for you to share those and just what you're doing and what's happened since WiFly.
Sure. Yeah, so after Bali, I went to Nicaragua for a week, and then I've been traveling for a while, and um, like I've mentioned to you, Kate, for me, I like traveling. I like having the freedom to travel, but I don't need to, go somewhere every 2 weeks or
Yeah.
be on the move all the time. So I had my fair share of traveling for the moment. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, okay, I need to pick somewhere to settle down and really set some roots maybe and just really focus on my business.
Yep.
And I've always wanted to go to San Diego
Mm-hmm.
since I was younger. So I'm like, screw it, I'll just move to San Diego, even though it made no sense logically.
Yep.
It's probably the most expensive place in North America to live.
Yeah. Not a typical nomad decision, but
Yeah, but it's always sunny, and I'll take it.
yeah.
So I moved to San Diego after Bali, and I've been just focusing on building my business, getting new clients. Um, yeah, so another big win. So like I said, I'm a web developer. That's basically my business. My ex roommate, when I first moved here, she had a friend who worked for this sports agency
Mm-hmm.
where they develop media for pro teams like in the NFL, NBA, MLB, NASCAR.
Yeah.
So he's like, yeah, we're looking for a front end developer slash designer. Like, here, apply. So I applied, but not only did I apply, I remade their website for them. So I
This is a
recreated
great
it.
point.
Yeah,
So I think there's a few points here. First of
sure.
all, we can touch on the networking, not if not now, later, and the fact of how you provided value and how you stood out. And I think this is a big thing that so many people overlook and won't put the time and energy. So please explain that process and your why you did it and how much of a time investment it was and what the result of that was. Yeah.
Sure. So this was something you guys taught us in WiFly, in the WiFi program. Whenever you apply somewhere, don't just send an application because there's hundreds of thousands or thousands of people applying to that same job probably.
Yeah.
So it's always important to add some sort of value to
Mm-hmm.
the company. And while recreating the website might not have been a value add to the company,
Mm-hmm.
it at least showcased my skills.
Right.
Because if I could remake their website, what else could they possibly be looking for
Yeah.
in a front end developer?
Yeah.
So I did that. It was, it took me probably about a week.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a time investment.
You didn't
But
really do anything that week, I remember. You were
yeah,
just doing it
yeah,
nonstop.
yeah. That week I was just focused on. I wasn't talking to clients or anyone.
Yeah.
I just remade the website. Um, yeah, but for some reason, it was fun for me to be honest. For some reason, I saw that, and there was just something in my brain like, yeah, remake their website.
Hmm.
It was just almost a gut feeling.
Yeah.
So I did that, and I got the contracting role.
Hmm.
So that's yeah. I just wanted. It's not a job. It's basically like a client for my business.
Right.
So I'm an independent contractor. So I can still I work maybe 10 to 20 hours a week for them,
Yeah.
and I can still run my business on the side,
Yeah.
get new clients.
Yeah.
So it's perfect because it's a steady income
Yeah.
and in a volatile kind of life. So
Yeah. I think that that's awesome. Instead of saying, I can do this, you've shown them. And I
yeah,
think that's a big thing too. Like, even when I brought Imran on, I didn't bring him on because he's like, oh, I can do this. I did it because he showed me he was a self starter. He followed up a billion times with me. And he was showing me what he was capable of. And I think another interesting thing too is I think a lot of people, it's interesting with this whole with remote working, people think everything is so online. And I think something that a lot of people miscalculate is the importance of networking. And so, like, when you were in Bali, you were connecting with all these nomads, all of these entrepreneurs. In your everyday life, you're connecting with people. This position came out of, an opportunity of someone that you knew. All the opportunities that I had when I started my remote job, it was because I was at a co-working space and someone put me in touch.
yeah,
Um, so I think it's important. Oh, I think you're freezing a bit. I think it's important to. I know you're good at networking. I know you like it. When we had the events, you're like, I want to go talk to everyone. So I would just, if you want to touch on your opinion and thoughts of networking, the importance of it, and your thoughts around that, how you approach people, because you were really good at it. Everyone else was, a lot of people were scared, and you almost like thrived off of the networking. I think there was like a bit of like fear, but also you did enjoy it and you were good at it. So what is your tips and advice for people in terms of, you know, just going and talking to people and networking and yeah.
yeah, sure. So here's the thing. You can become better at it. I'm naturally a shy person. I was
Mhm.
born introverted,
Mhm.
and just I love challenges. So through that, I was just kind of like, you know what? I'll take that challenge and I'll become better at it. So
Yeah.
just I think growing up, to be honest, this might sound funny, but approaching girls has helped me a lot with networking.
Oh, this is so funny.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So when I was younger, I was shy. I didn't really want to talk to girls. And then there came a certain point where you know what? Like, what's the worst that can happen? Like, because if I see a pretty girl walking down the street
Mhm.
and I don't say hi to her, I
Mhm.
get this huge feeling of regret,
Yeah.
and that's the worst feeling to me. So at one point, I just started like, you know what? I'm just gonna go talk to them, and then if they say no, I'd rather they say no, and rather than me not even trying and having that feeling of regret. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? So now like rejection doesn't even bother me. I'd rather that no, I feel good if I get a no because I'm like, okay, at least I don't have that feeling of regret of never
Yeah.
trying. So it's funny enough, but that definitely helped me in networking.
I think that's interesting because I think that applies to people just wanting to live this lifestyle is yeah, this is so relative. It's funny because I was just watching a TED talk and it was this guy that was so afraid of rejection that he did this challenge and he tried to get rejected. He did really ridiculous things so that he would get rejected. But then he actually learned a lot from it. Like for example, one place he wanted to plant this like dead ugly flower and he's like, "Can I plant this in your backyard?" And the guy's like, "No." And instead of thinking it was him because it was a weird request, and instead of just leaving, he asked why. Why? And he's like, "Oh, well, I have a dog and it's going to dig it up. Why don't you go ask Mary across the road?" So it's interesting because we get all these fears in our head and we play out all these worst case scenarios when in fact, as soon as he addressed it, why, he found it had nothing to do with him. We tend to think it's all about us and have these internal fears when in the reality there's just it's interesting. I think that comes to confidence as well and
Yeah,
being okay with that rejection and what that really means. And yeah, that's interesting.
yeah, exactly. And so here's the thing: is even if you're a shy or introverted person, you can get better at it. So the more you try, the easier it gets, and the
Yeah.
more you get rejected, the less it feels bad for you. So
Yeah.
just you can get better at it. It's a skill. It's
Yeah.
learn.
I think this is also interesting in the point of actually just doing it because you can read and learn things till the end of time, but it's when you actually do things. It's just like you guys in building your business. We can say all these things, but it's until you're actually doing it and going through it. I remember there's a certain point post Bali, and we're talking with all of you guys, and we could see a certain point where you guys were at, and it's like, oh, we covered this on Wi-Fi, but it didn't resonate or make sense then because you weren't experiencing it, and then everyone started experiencing it, and it was like, this makes sense now.
Exactly.
That's interesting. Okay.
Yeah. And
Um,
one more point on that, Kate,
yeah.
I think is important is when you're networking specifically, don't always walk in, saying, "Oh, like I want something from this person." I
Mm,
go in just trying to get to know people. I think that's really fun for me. I just want to get to know the other person, what they do,
yeah.
and then if we can help each other or they can help me, I can help them.
Yeah.
Then, then even better. If not, you just made another friend or another connection,
Yes. This is a
right?
good point. 100% networking. Always go in with you're never going to instantly be like, hey, boom, sell, have a new client. It's really it's a long term game. And I think a lot of people think it's just needs to be this quick, dirty thing. And again, it's not even about trying to get something, just building
Exactly.
those relationships and things just happen. Things come from it at the right time. But just being open and receptive. I think that's a great
Yeah,
point.
just go in to make a friend, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so you talked about your success in terms of the developing and how you have the one client, you're still looking for bringing on other clients as well, and then you also started the podcast. Do you want to talk about that a bit and how that came to be and where you're at with that? And yeah,
Yeah, sure. So with myself and two of the girls from WiFly, Akina and Sarah, we started a podcast called Drunken Nomads. We actually just filmed our third episode last night,
awesome.
so that's going to be out in the next week or so.
And you and
So
Sarah
stay tuned.
actually both Sarah met up with you in San Diego recently too, right?
Yeah, yeah. Sarah was here for about 5 days.
Okay, cool. And
Yeah,
Akina's
yeah,
all the way in Guam, just so you guys
yeah,
like Guam is literally the other little
yeah,
island on the other side of the world. So they Skype at I think Akina gets up really early so that she
yeah,
can talk to you guys.
yeah.
Yeah.
She's a trooper. I could never do that. I'm not a morning person. Yeah, yeah. So we're on the third. The third episode will be out this week. And yeah, that's just kind of a passion project for us. We just want, if we can inspire one person to, be happier and live the life they want, then I think we'll be happy with that. It's
Yeah.
not really, it's not something we started to, because we think it's going to be wildly successful. It's just kind of our way of venting, our way of, expressing our opinions and just trying to motivate people, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so what gone through this whole journey. It's been quite a transition, you know, starting with just a trip and joining WiFly, and then, you know, now you've brought on this client, started this podcast. What does what's the next 12 months look like for you? What is the ultimate goal? What do things look like in the next 12 months for you?
Right now I'm basically living a month at a time. So my original plan was to be in San Diego for just a month, but I really, really like it here. So I think
Yeah.
I'm gonna stay until further notice.
Hmm.
Um,
That's a very
so
nomadic answer.
yeah. And so in terms of location, I think San Diego is going to be it for the next little while.
Yeah.
I do have some websites that I'm developing right now for a few clients,
Yeah.
so that's on the docket. Um, and in terms of business, I just want to build up my client base where it's more steady.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that's my focus for the next little while, just to really build my business.
Yeah.
Um, Versus traveling right now. I
Yeah.
eventually want to do a bit more traveling, but right now I think it's important that I build my business and
Yeah.
go from there.
So I have two questions. One, now that we've seen this whole evolution, I think one being I guess the main one would be, how is life different? You know, you were living this lifestyle not too long ago, a matter of months ago, and is someone back me? No, I hear this. Oh, wait, maybe it's your computer. The audio is like very weird,
Really?
and yeah, it sounds loud. That's a bit better. Yeah,
Yeah.
kind of. It literally sounds like someone's back.
Really?
Yeah.
There's no back.
Is your laptop overheating or something, or no? Because I think your audio. It's a little better. Yeah, it's a little better.
Yeah.
Are you just going to do a workout and keep your laptop?
Okay.
I guess what I'd be curious to know is, what was life like, and what is it like now, and what are those what are those contrasts, good and bad? Like, what have you exchanged? What have you had to overcome? You talked a bit about mindset, but I would like to reflect on where you were just maybe 4 months ago versus now, and how is life different right now for you? Like, how is it different?
So 4 months ago to 5 years ago, I was living for the weekend. So my weeks, 5 out of 7 days, I was not looking forward to,
Mm-hmm.
which doesn't make sense to me that you only look forward to 2 out of 7, 2/7 of your life,
Yeah.
right? Now I look forward to every single day. Every single day is different. I wake up, I know I have a million things to do,
Mm-hmm.
but I enjoy it. So, whether that be prospecting clients, going on sales calls,
Mm-hmm.
doing actual web development work.
Yeah.
Um, the beauty of it is I can do whatever I want.
Yeah.
So if, for example, if I want to go out on a Tuesday night and have a few beers, I don't have to wake up Wednesday early. You know what I mean? And it's just up to me. And if I want to get work done at 10 p.m. at night, I can do it. If I want
Yeah.
to stay until 3 in the morning doing work, I can do it. That's the biggest difference. I can basically set my own schedule and do whatever I want.
Do you find
And
that, sorry, go ahead.
no, go ahead.
Do you find that it makes you more productive instead of trying to force yourself to develop between the hours of 9 to 5? The fact that you can now, again, you're more of like a night owl. Do you find that the fact that you don't have to be up right at 9, are you getting things done? Like, do you find you're more productive?
Yeah, definitely. Because now I'm on my own time. So
Yeah.
I know that the faster I can get things done, the more it'll benefit me.
Yeah.
Um, at the same time, yeah, there's a lot of work that you do that goes into it that you don't get paid for. Like
Yeah.
the time it takes to find a new client
Yep.
or build that proposal or have that sales call, you're not
Yeah.
getting paid for that, right?
Yeah.
So you basically have to be more productive in those hours that you are working.
Yeah.
And it's nice that you get to choose them because if you know yourself well enough, you know how you'll be more productive.
And I know that you're in to personal development and growth, do you find that this transition has helped you and that you can almost focus more on yourself and becoming a better person and growing? Or has it remained the same? Or do you feel like you have more, I guess, balance to cater to the other aspects of your life that are important?
I'll say yes and no. So now that I'm running my business full time,
Mm,
I feel like I could literally be working 24 hours a day.
yeah.
So it's hard to get that balance, but I think I think if you are able to get there, then it's easier to do that than when you have a 9 to 5 job. So,
Okay.
for example, now I block out certain blocks of time to do things. So,
Yeah.
you know, I'll block out time to read a book,
Hmm.
or I'll block out time to answer my emails. I'll block out time to reach out to people, to
Yeah.
prospective partners or prospective clients. So I'll block out those times, and then I'll block out times for personal development. So I try new things. I go on different meetups on
Yeah.
things I'm interested in. So I have that flexibility to do basically whatever I want,
Yeah.
and for that personal growth.
That's amazing. I think that's interesting because you do create your own day. You can enter the day being going after a million things, but I
Yeah,
think it's important when you have the freedom to also provide structure to it so that
yeah,
you are dedicating and allocating time.
yeah.
Okay. So I'm gonna go through some random questions just that I think in general might help people.
How does this
Um,
sound, by the way, Kate? Is it better?
it's good. Yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
What was, yeah, we'll try to wrap up in the next 10 minutes or so. What factors or elements do you think were critical to get you to the point where you are now? What was it that got you from there to here?
Can you be more specific?
So was it um, you know, mindset? Did mindset play a role? Was it something, was it a person you met? Was it something like an aha moment of um like an aha moment? What was the main thing that the most critical, most important thing that you could share with someone? So say someone's in their 9 to 5 right now, they want to get to the point where you are. What was that number one thing that if you had to say that was the thing that got me there, was that? Like what was something that was really critical for you to, I guess, learn or understand or realize to get to this point? The one main
Um,
thing.
sure. So I think it's a process. I don't think there's just one thing that happened that I'm like, okay, like I need to quit my 9 to 5 job. Like I said, it was a long process. I think innately I've always known the 9 to 5 was not for me.
Mm-hmm.
So trust your gut. If if you feel constrained by it, if you don't feel it serves you, or you feel like, there's more to life, then I think, that's your gut telling you something.
Yeah.
Also, know this, and we touched upon this earlier, you're never going to be 100% sure. If you know that you hate your job and you hate the constraints, and you know what's wrong,
Mm-hmm.
you don't have to know what's 100% right.
Yeah.
Just know that it's more right than what you were doing before.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that's amazing. And I like that you say it's a process. So many
Yeah.
people think the traditional 9 to 5 is very black and white. It's like you want a job, you apply, you interview, you get it, you have a job. This whole lifestyle is so different. And I think everyone needs to realize it's not black and white. Oh, I want to do this and boom, that's it. It's a series of these little things, and we talked about on WiFly, where you just lean into one direction. Like for you, I know this isn't for me, I'm going to lean this direction, and on that way you're going to lean into more, and you're not going to, eventually you're going to get to the point where you see how all the dots connected, but you're not going to have that roadmap, but you're just going to
Exactly.
lean into what feels right. And when something's doesn't feel right, you lean the other way, and just trying
Yeah.
things out and being self-aware of this works, this didn't,
Yeah.
and recognizing it's a journey. It's not just this boom, I'm here. It's like, okay, it seems like you boom, you have this remote job. I remember when I got mine, it was like, oh, but it's a 3 month trial first. So even when I was excited that I had this remote job, I wasn't, because I was like, it's a 3 month trial. Then all of a sudden you hit the 3 month trial and you're sort of now working remotely, and you're like, okay, I guess I should celebrate, but I've already been doing it for 3 months. So it's kind of
Yeah.
weird. And it definitely is this transition, and it's not these big like boom aha moments that we all expect. Like
Yeah.
there's going to be this day and they say you have a remote job and the fireworks go off and it feel this excitement. It's definitely more gradual and more of a transition than most people think. It's interesting.
Yeah. And can I add one more thing,
Yeah,
Kate?
of course.
So it's not easy. I don't want people to get the impression that it's easy.
Mm-hmm.
It's very tough. There's days where you're like, I don't even know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
It's hard. It's a very challenging lifestyle.
Yeah.
But for me, I love the challenge and
Mm-hmm.
it's really rewarding for me. And I wouldn't want it any other way. I wouldn't want it to be easy.
Yeah.
So just make sure you're ready for that challenge because, it's not for everyone.
Yeah.
It really isn't. And that's okay too.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be for you. You just like, oh, I want to travel and it sounds glamorous,
Mm-hmm.
just just be careful. Make sure you really evaluate it. It's like me when I went to engineering. I just wanted a cool condo and a cool car and a
And a
cool
ring.
ring. Yeah, but I didn't realize what the day to day would be like.
Yeah.
So make sure you really think about what the day to day would be like, because that's 99% of it.
Yeah.
You know?
I I want to add on to that. I completely agree. And the hardest thing that I see is so many people will always come to me and say, oh, this is so exciting. I want to do it. But then it gets to the point where they realize, oh shit, this is actually hard. And then they all stop. And it's so disheartening because you see all these people that could do it. And even for me, like this, it was a hard ass journey. Like I applied for remote jobs for months, nothing happened. Then I finally just like booked a flight, then my laptop dies and I was just like crying in this store, like I'm gonna have to like go home. What do I do? And where was I going on that?
It's hard.
Yeah, sorry, it's hard. And it's so many people say like, oh, you're so lucky you're living this life. And it is a lot of hard work and it's consistent action every day and just like if you really want it to happen, it will happen. And if you really don't, you'll find an excuse and you won't make it happen.
Yeah.
So people need to be really sure this is what they want and be really willing to put in the work because you are so spot on. It's difficult. It's trying to force yourself to get up and work when you just want to sleep and you feel like shit and things are not going well and
Yeah.
life happens. But I think that's a really good point. I think that a lot of people like the idea of it, but no one's actually prepared to put in the work that it takes.
Yeah. Exactly.
And what have you been most surprised to learn throughout this whole process of where you've gotten so far? What's been the most surprising thing to you with everything?
That's a good question. So I knew it would be hard. I'm surprised that I liked the challenge this much.
Okay.
I think I always knew I liked challenges. I've always been that way, but I literally enjoy every single day, even
Yeah.
the hard days. It's even the days where I'm like, okay, like this is tough. I don't even know what I'm doing. I
Yeah.
still kind of enjoy it.
Yeah.
That's a little surprising for me, but um, I think it's a good surprise.
Yeah. Do you
Yeah.
think that's because although it's challenging, it's your journey and your challenge and it's not like you're doing it for a boss or for a company. It's to because it's getting you, you're growing going through these challenges.
Yeah, maybe.
Okay,
I think, yeah.
interesting. Interesting. Um, I guess this answers our last. I was going to ask, what do most people underestimate? And I think we talked about that, the hard work. Is there
Yeah.
anything else that you want to add that a lot of people underestimate when trying to transition to this lifestyle?
Um, Underestimate.
I guess the other part to this question is there something that people don't see or don't realize that you think is important? So if someone say, I'm doing the 9 to 5, I want to get where you're at. What's one thing that you think a lot of people overlook? They don't see, they don't realize that they need to like open their eyes to if they want to succeed.
Sure. There's a few points I think. So number one, the logistics. Like, I was basically homeless for a few days last
Mm-hmm.
month. So, like I said, when I first moved to San Diego, my plan was to be here for a month. So I just got a month lease at
Yeah.
an apartment, and yeah. So At the end of that lease, I went to LA for about 4 or 5 days
Hmm.
to visit my friends, and then when I came back, I had no plan. I had nowhere to stay.
Hmm.
So for a couple of days, I was, it was, it was fun. It was, I didn't have a place to stay, and I was literally looking for a place for 2 days straight, and I wasn't doing any work in those 2 days.
Hmm.
And eventually I found a place. So there are logistical issues sometimes, like like finding a car, for example. I'm doing monthly leases on cars now,
Hmm.
or monthly rentals. Sorry.
Yeah.
Just things like that. The new place I found didn't have a bed, so I had to go buy a mattress and kind of furnish my room a little bit, which
Yeah.
an unexpected expense.
Yeah.
Little logistical things like that. They add up. They're timely.
Hmm.
Also, I think that sorry, I had a point. Um, it's difficult. Um,
Yeah, the part that people underestimate, they don't
yeah,
realize or
I lost my train of thought there.
okay. It's
Yeah,
I just want to add to your point there what you just said
sure.
is I came to learn this as well is that when you're living this lifestyle, you really have to be adaptable. Like and recognize
Yeah,
things are different in different countries. So in Asia, hot water is not usually like a popular thing. Like in Bali, unless it specifies hot water, you may not be getting hot water. And you learn these things you wouldn't think of, or even the fact that when a place says it has Wi-Fi, that doesn't mean it's good or reliable Wi-Fi. It just means
yeah,
technically Wi-Fi. So I feel like you learn these ins and outs and in the process you have to become adaptable. You learn to just roll with the punches. You learn to, you know, go to a place and okay, there is not a mattress here, like I need to go get a mattress. These
yeah,
things happen, but it's great because it helps you see all these stats about remote workers like oh being adaptable and all this stuff, and what I've learned through this process is that those stats are very true. Like you really do learn how to adapt. You know, you don't have a home for 2 days. Like
yeah,
you're figuring shit out to make that happen. And then you
yeah,
also realize what you're capable of, right? For you
yeah,
to be in a different country and like shit, I need to sort something out. Like you become resourceful and you see what you're capable of in terms of figuring that out, right?
yeah, exactly. So yeah, another thing that I want to mention is a lot of the times you're gonna have to do things that you don't want to do. So if you're starting a business, like I don't want to be a salesman. I feel weird. I feel sleazy selling, but no matter what business you start, you're gonna have to be a salesman. You're gonna have to be a
Yeah.
business person. You're gonna have to do finance. You're gonna have to do
Yeah.
things that you may not necessarily like to do, but it's
Yeah.
necessary and it's a big
Yeah.
part of the territory. So for me, I think sales calls and are very important, or for anyone who has their own business, you have to make sales
Yeah.
and I don't really like it. I feel like it's inauthentic,
Yeah.
which is against my biggest core value of
Yeah.
being genuine. But you have to do it, and the thing is, you can find a way to do it that kind of aligns with you and who you are as
Yeah.
a person, and I think that's important as well.
I think there's a whole topic of this whole sales thing and the mentality behind that and
Yeah.
ways to overcome that. It's funny, I was listening to a podcast the other day and he said,
Was it Drunken Nomads?
well, it was one of them actually, and that was very funny. You guys need to listen to episode 2. And I was messaging Rami after because he's telling Sarah that we like drink maple syrup and we live in igloos and all these funny, inaccurate Canadian things. But so many Americans believe it.
And she totally believed it.
I
I
know.
think she still does.
I think she does too. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was waiting for the moment when you were telling her you're joking, and I don't think that happened. So
No.
I think this is hilarious. And you're always very honest and like very upfront with everyone. So I think that she thinks to not even question what you're saying because you're always so upfront.
Yeah.
It's funny. But one of them said it was about sales, and he said, if you're not a sleazy or inauthentic person, why would you be a sleazy, inauthentic salesperson, right? Because you're still
Exactly.
the same person coming to that situation. But that could be like a whole
Oh yeah.
discussion on its
Yeah.
own. Yeah.
I've read several books just on how to sell,
Yeah.
and I'm sure you have
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah. So I guess one of the final questions as we wrap up here, what do you think that when someone's trying to transition to this lifestyle, what should they be, you know, what should they be focusing less on and what should they be focusing more on? Because sometimes people are focusing on the wrong things and they need to pull back on something, focus on something else. Based on your experience, what do you think are some of the things that people need to focus more on and then focus less on to get to where they want to be?
So, number one, you have to really make sure this is what you want. A lot of people just want to travel, and
Yeah.
that's cool. And you can do that. You can just travel, and you don't need to be um, a remote worker or have your own remote business or be a digital nomad. Um, so if you just want to travel, travel. Don't try to do it for any other reasons. Another thing is it's so easy to get lost in all the things you have to do every single day.
Mhm.
You have to really focus on what's important.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, what's gonna make me money?
Yeah.
So you know what I mean? So a lot of people be like, oh, like I need an amazing website or I need the perfect logo.
Hmm.
But the perfect logo is not going to make you money. What's going to make you money is you go out and getting clients.
Yeah.
That's going to make you money. So a lot of people, and I think it might be subconscious because it's scary to go out and sell. It's very
Hmm.
scary. Um, so they focus on the things that are superficial or don't matter.
Yeah.
You need to really focus on what's going to make you money at the end of the day,
Yeah.
right? And that's something that I've kind of learned as well. I used to
Yep.
focus, oh, I need the perfect logo, I need the perfect website. And for me, maybe I do a little bit more than others because I'm in that business.
Yeah.
But 99% of businesses, you don't. You just need to make a sale at the
Yeah.
end of the day. And it's
Yeah.
that simple. You just simplify it. It's not complicated. Make a sale and you make money.
Yeah.
That's it.
I think that's an interesting point because you don't have a business until you have sales. Like
Yeah,
it's just an idea. It's not a business until it's generating money. And
exactly.
all of the things that you do should be measured against, is this going to lead to me generating a sale? I completely agree. I think people get distracted with the little things to just give themselves, make them feel like, oh, I'm worthy of this. I feel more confident now.
Yeah,
But at the end of the day, you're absolutely right. It comes down to selling.
yeah.
Um,
And one more note on that, Kate, is selling is all about confidence, self confidence. So
yeah.
I think before you even start a business, make sure you're good with yourself
Mm-hmm.
and do whatever you have to do to get to that place where you are
Yeah.
confident enough at least
Yeah.
to go in and be assertive and know that you can help that person,
Yeah.
right? Because a lot of people just don't feel good enough. That's the biggest problem. And
Yeah.
like we said earlier, you are your biggest hurdle
Yeah.
and make sure you do whatever work you have to do to be good with yourself before you start that business or you,
Yeah.
you jump into this.
I completely agree. You can't sell someone on anything if you don't believe in it enough yourself. Like even we talked about convincing your boss to let you work remotely. So many people do it with such hesitation and hope. And unless you go in there like so confident and this is the best decision and I wholeheartedly believe it and this is why, they will not
Yeah,
budge. And you're absolutely right. Confidence is so important for that.
yeah,
Um, I think going back as well, I just want to touch on this because
sure.
when I started, when I started this journey, my whole reason of working online was I just wanted to travel. I was like, I don't care what I have to do, when, why, like I don't care about anything. I don't care if I have to sleep in hostels and work from a hostel bed. I just want to travel.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
it's funny, but I think that my desire for that why was so strong that it motivated me to do what I had to do to make it happen. So I think it kind of, and my why has definitely a billion% changed. But I think it's just the main point with that being is knowing why you're doing it because it's going to get hard, very hard. And unless you have a really strong purpose of why you're doing it or reason, you're going to give up. If your why is not strong enough, if you're not passionate about it, and
yeah,
on WiFly, we talked about this too. Do you just do something for the money or the passion? And I think that we've learned through the experience in a way that it's your passion that propels you. It gives you that purpose, that why. And if you don't have a strong enough why, it's so easy to give up when the going gets hard. So getting that clarity of why is
Yeah.
critical, why you're doing it and how important that is to you. And once you know that, that's when you will be willing to go through all of the shit and the hard work to get there.
Yeah, exactly. That's a great point, Kate. So for me, I know I know I have a great I know I'm here on this planet for a purpose, a big purpose.
Yep.
I just don't know what it is yet.
Yep.
And that's okay. So I know a lot of people feel that way too. Everyone's here for a purpose, and a lot of people don't know what it is. But you don't have to necessarily know right now, and your purpose can change. It could fluctuate. It can change.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So just follow what makes you happy and follow what brings you the highest energy, and it'll
Mm-hmm.
lead you to that purpose. So you
Yeah.
might not have a game plan per se,
Yeah.
but just follow it and it'll eventually get you there, I think.
Yeah. I completely agree. I feel like my path was I always felt like I was these two people. One was this free spirit traveler, and this other one was super business focused and oriented.
Yeah.
And there are two different polar opposites. And I always thought I had to pick one. And so I would keep bouncing between picking one. And then finally I started just leaning into the, like we talked about, leaning in and just, letting it guide you. And now all of a sudden my life and my job is business and travel. It's the most beautiful merge that I literally never thought would be possible. And if I were to think 5 years ago, could the two come together? I would say absolutely not. It's impossible. It doesn't make sense. But by doing this trial and error, like you're saying, it leads you to where you ultimately, meant to be. And I think it's important too that people realize that I know you've said this with other participants that you're not just going to sit there, think, and then all of a sudden it comes to you. It's about going through the motions to guide you there.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. Okay, so we have been on for a while. So, yeah, is there anything else that you want to share with everybody? Anything else?
No, I just think that I I think it's really important that you do follow your passion in life
Mm-hmm.
and don't think with your head, think with your heart. I know it's a cliche. And then until even recently, I thought it was bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
But I really think it's so true, and that's the only way you'll ever feel fulfilled. And like, don't get us wrong. I'm sure you agree, Kate. Like, I'm not there yet. I'm not even close to where I want to be.
Mm-hmm.
But I know I'm on step one
Mm-hmm.
of the path, and I'm gonna eventually to the top of the mountain. And then I know when I get to the top of that mountain, there's gonna be another mountain. So
Mm-hmm.
it's just gonna be a progression. And a lot of people say, "Oh, I just want to be happy. I just want to be happy. Like traveling will make me happy. Whatever will make me happy." Happiness is not a goal; it's a state. It's a feeling. So there's gonna be some things that make you happy. Some days you won't be happy. Um, it's just about doing as many things that make you feel happy in life
Mm-hmm.
and make you feel fulfilled. I think.
Yeah.
So, you know what? Sometimes you just have to take that leap, and I think you don't have to know exactly where you're jumping to,
Mm-hmm.
but just taking that leap is the first step.
Yeah. That's amazing.
Yeah,
Awesome.
yeah.
Your wise advice, you are always leaving wise advice for everyone on the program. So that was a beautiful way to wrap up. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Emily says, super helpful and great relevant discussion. Thanks, Rhami and Kate. Thanks, Emily, for
Thanks,
listening.
Emily. Awesome.
Yeah, so I'm sure people might post questions below, so I'll tag you in the Facebook group if they do, and then you could answer any questions.
Yeah, feel free.
Thank you for coming on and sharing your story with everybody. I hope that it inspires more people. Can you let everyone know how they can get in touch with you or follow your journey?
Yeah, sure. So, if anyone needs a website or marketing services, our company website is archcowebdesign.com. That's
Okay, I'll put that.
ARCHCO, webdesign.com. We'll link to that. Also, so our podcast is at drunkennomads.com. That's just for motivation, inspiration, if anyone needs that. And
Yeah.
yeah, you can add me on Facebook. I'm sure you can see my name here.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, any questions or comments, feel free. I'm more than happy to answer them.
Great. And I think everyone should listen to the first episode of Drunken Nomads to see, because it seems like they just go and party and drink, but it's so much more depth and
Yeah.
meaning. So in the first episode, they explain what that really means and how that came to be.
Yeah.
So I won't let you answer that. I will let everyone go to the podcast and then they can hear the story for themselves where you guys explain it. Awesome. Okay. Well, Rhami, you are going to be in Canada soon, and I'm going to be in San Diego soon.
Yeah.
So maybe I will catch you in San Diego when you get back there. I know that.
When are
So
you going to
now
San Diego?
I'm going to be there the second week of January. Well, mid second week of January to that like Wednesday to Wednesday.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think I'll just do a week. I think Sarah and Sohail
More.
may be coming there too.
Yeah.
So I
I'll
don't
be
know
here.
if you're there. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll do a little WiFly meetup.
Awesome.
Awesome. Okay. Well, again, thanks again so much for sharing your story, and I'll link to everything in the Facebook group. And I guess that's it. It was good chatting with you again.
You too, Kate. Thanks so
Awesome.
much.
Talk to you soon.
Okay.
Bye.